I'll entertain a motion for the minutes and agenda. Everybody get a chance to look at it?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes agenda.
I'll second.
Somebody stole my pen.
On a motion from Jensvold and a second from Smith to approve the minutes and agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 9 a.m. Tyler Technologies to give overview of software conversion. So Kelly, or can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you. So I will go ahead and what I'm going to do is really just go over the high-level overview of what Encode 10 is, because I do know that there's been some new board members since this contract was originally signed. So I'll try not to take up too much of the meeting, but if you guys have any questions, we can talk as long as we need to as well. So I will go ahead and get started here. So my agenda today is really to go over the Encode 10 financials overview, your contract in a high-level review, talk a little bit about the implementation process, talk about our risk management, and then our communication plan throughout the implementation. So my first slide here is really just kind of a high-level overview of what Encode 10 Financials is going to be giving you. So we do have a fully integrated system that is designed to improve financial and personnel management. It is customizable and role-based dashboard, and we do have adaptive user experience, and it simplifies the management and reporting of financial data. So on the screen here, I do have some of the dashboards that will be available. And the nice thing with the dashboards is they will be different depending on who's working on what. So the treasurer's office can have dashboards, the auditor's office can have dashboards, so everyone can have their own dashboard that's needed. So that was really just a high-level overview of what Encode 10 is. Do you guys have any specific questions about moving from Eden to Encode 10?
I know you're coming in, like, basically Eden is where we've had all the financial information for the last, 8 to 10 years? and this is the new version of that. It's accounting software for accounting. I don't know if that's a fair description.
Yep.
So Eden has come to the end of its life where they're not developing it anymore. They've only been kind of maintaining the bare minimum to keep up with law changes and that kind of thing. This program has a very different, I'm going to say much better interface, easier to use, and it's kind of like changing from Windows XP to Windows 10. Windows XP is done; it's not supported anymore. It was great for what it was. Now we're on to the new thing. It's kind of something that happens with software. I'm done talking.
All right, so next, did you guys have any questions about that at all?
No.
Okay. So next I wanted to talk about the implementation and the contract that we have. So for Winnebago County, we do have Encode 10 Financials Management Suite. This includes core financials, which is your general ledger and accounts payable. We also have your drainage module and then project accounting. And then we also have your personnel management suite, which would be your payroll and HR, and also includes position budgeting. And then we have employee self-service and employee self-service time and attendance. So then with that, we will be converting your data from Eden, bringing it into Encode 10. We'll be converting the general ledger, the accounts payable, and personnel management side. With this, we will be having 2 years plus your current year, so we'll be having 3 years of data into the system. And this will be considered a detailed conversion, which will mean we will get your data as soon as we can at the beginning of the project, then right before parallel payroll, and then right before go live. So that way the system is completely updated with your current information that is coming away from you. Are there any questions about what is showing on the contract or the conversion services?
No.
Okay. So then next I just want to go into the implementation phases. We do have financial and personnel management. The nice thing with these is we do go live right together with everything. So usually general ledger accounts payable will go live the first week, and then the following week will be personnel management. So it's not a period of time between the two going live. So for the implementation, we do have 6 stages that we will be working through. So we'll be working through the first stage, which is your initiate plan stage. That is when your team has been working with onboarding. That's also when I come into the picture and we start working on the schedule. Stage 2 is solution orientation, or getting to know the software a little bit, how the Inco 10 is going to work. We do a current feature state analysis, which is a high level, asking how you guys are handling your system currently and how you are planning to use it for Inco 10. And then that's also where we're getting your first data pull in stage 2. Stage 3 is preparing the solution, which is giving you guys the data back into your system. Then our team will be working on configuration with your team, making sure that everything is set up appropriately, how the way that you guys are wanting it handled. And then we also have the process training and refinement, where the high-level users can get in and start doing some training on the system. Stage 4 is our production readiness stage. This is where you're going to be in the system, being able to look at the data, make sure everything in the system is looking correct. See if there's any issues with it, same with processes, making sure that everything is running smoothly. And then we also have your end user training. So that would be for any of the employees who are going to be in the software on a daily basis. They will be doing some trainings at that time. And then production stage, which is actually going live into the system. We also do a transition to support call at that time, and then work on any post-live activities that still need to be worked on. Then stage 6 is really just closing out the project, agreeing that we have finished everything that we needed for the implementation side, and then all further questions would go to support. Are there any questions about the stages that we'll be going through throughout the implementation?
No.
All right, so the next I just want to talk about risk management, just letting you guys know that we will be talking to the team about any items that may come up in the future that could cause a risk to the project. These could include someone who is planning to retire, any new hires, anyone going on maternity leave, things like that. Also, we do talk about COVID during these meetings as well, since that is a new risk as well. So throughout the implementation, we will be discussing just making sure that there's no risk and that the project is moving forward smoothly. And then the last item is just our communication tools. So we do have biweekly status calls set up where I will be going over the items that will be needed in the next month. And so we'll be able to discuss that with the team and go over any questions that they have during those status calls. And then we also have a client project portal that is set up for the team where any documents that they have filled out are shown on that portal, and then they're able to go back to that and get any information that they've previously sent. I also put our biweekly status calls on the portal, so if there's any questions, they can see what we discussed during those times as well. So we do have pretty good communication tools going on throughout the implementation, and the team is available to contact me at any time too as the project manager with any questions that they have. So that was pretty quick, but just a high-level overview of what Inco 10 is going to be and how the implementation process is going to work with Winnebago County. Any other questions that I can answer at this time?
So we're getting ready to start now then?
Yeah, we started our status calls, and we've actually already looked at the schedule and are in approval stages of the schedule to be able to continue to keep moving forward. But yes, we're in the process of moving forward as well.
All right, good.
Thanks, Kelly.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Have a
thank
good
you.
rest of your day.
Appreciate it.
Mhm.
We'll see you later.
Did I trip over the cord? and mess
No,
it
no,
No.
she ended the meeting.
up? Uh-oh.
All right, we're done with that one.
Nine, 10.
Yeah.
Good timing.
Are we doing in person on this one, or?
No, she's on the phone.
Oh, she's on the phone, okay. All All right, so 9:10, Maggie Munger, Spear Financial, to discuss refunding the Public Safety Center bonds. Maggie, are you on the phone?
I am. Thank you very much, and I appreciate being able to call in. I have got other commitments this morning, meetings following this, and additional meetings in the later morning, so I do appreciate your accommodation on this. We have provided some information to the county for the possible refunding of your Public Safety Center bonds. The original bonds that are outstanding were done in 2016B, and they are available for what's called a current refunding as of June 1st of 2021. This does mean that you will make your June 1st, 2021 payment as normal, and you would be able to refund the bonds at that point in time, all the future maturities, which would run from 2022 down till 2035. The interest rates on those bonds that are outstanding from 22 to 2035 are 2% down to a 3% interest rate. What we have done is provided you some information based on what we have seen on some prior sales in the last 2 weeks. Not only did Cedar County sell about $9.7 million of new money bonds, but we also had a sale of new money debt for the city of Hiawatha. Both of those were similar time frames for repayment, so we used those interest rates that we had seen, or those yields that we had seen on those bond issues, to give you what we would assume the debt service schedule today would be, of approximately 1% interest rate starting in 2022 down to about a 1.55% interest rate. With that information coming your way, we think that there would be savings of approximately $20,000 to $25,000 a year on the debt that remains outstanding, and that would give you a nominal savings of approximately $343,000 in interest over the remaining life of this bond issue. The net present value is a number that we like to base it on, and the net present value is saying that our system is basing it on inflation, but that there's an approximation of inflation in the future. So they're saying the net present value benefit by the time you would refund this bond is probably closer to around $300,000 or around $296,000. That sounds lower than the nominal amount, and we do understand that because there are some approximations, but it's also based on the fact that it's assuming that in the future you'd be able to get a little bit more money on any money that you're sticking aside in between payments. You'd be able to earn a little bit of investment money. It's assuming that there will be some inflationary movement in the upward direction. It's just kind of the timing or aging of money, we call it, that net present value. This is about an 8% savings, the number 8% savings overall, and we don't usually recommend a refunding unless it can save 2 to 2.5%. Now, I do want to note that we are not saying that these interest rates would be locked in today if you were to take action and say it's 1 to 1.55. We're saying this is what the interest rate is today. We have seen a slight movement in the upward direction on interest rates. We at our firm are chalking that up to, we think that as mass vaccinations occur, are starting to hear and see things, and the economy starting to rebound. We're seeing states that are reopening, to not only visitors, but to food and to other entertainment type activities. And with all of that happening, we think that interest rates are going to inch up. So our suggestion would be that if the board decides to move forward with doing the refunding, you would act a little sooner than later so that, you could capture the lowest interest rates possible in a timely fashion. Right now, we believe that there's a small premium that could be paid on these bonds, and that premium means that there's a difference between the interest rates and the yields on those interest rates. And when there's a difference on that, meaning the interest rate is, let's say, bid at a 1%, but the yield is only 0.5% or 0.50%, the underwriter has to provide you some dollars up front to buy that higher interest rate. And that's what we're seeing. So in our sources and uses, we assumed that, you may see about $11,000 in premium. You have to use that premium to buy down the issuance of the bonds, so you have to use that premium towards the total cost. We also are recommending that you would use a cash contribution to pay the interest accrual. So you'll make your June 1, 2021 payment, and for every day after that, there will be an accrual of interest on the remaining bonds outstanding. From the date that we could sell the bonds, and there are some actions that have to occur, you've got to set a date of public hearing, hold a public hearing, approve an official statement, things like that, have a bond sale, get through the authorizing and then closing. To the date, from the day of June 1 to the day that you can close and redeem on these bonds, there will be a small accrual of interest. Our firm is very, we have a very strong opinion that you should not finance that interest, meaning that just bulks up the size of the issuance, which gives everybody an opportunity to charge a higher rate for their services, and we just don't think you should do that. Our estimate, if you were to close on this, let's say in August, by the time we get through all of the steps necessary, we believe that by the time you would close, there would be about $17,293 of accrued interest. That money could come from the debt service fund, which may have a fund balance. It could come from any other general source that would be available. Again, the whole point of that is just not raising the overall borrowing size, which again affords everybody a little bit more fee, and we don't think you should have to do that, especially because it's not that many days. It doesn't appear to be that much of accrual of interest. It's not like we're going 3 months out or 4 months out from that June 1 date. So with that, we also in our sources of funds, we are expecting you would need to borrow $3,400,000. That is just slightly above where you are sitting today with the amount of debt outstanding. And the reason that occurs is you do have cost of issuance. We estimate the cost of issuance to be around $41,565. That includes fees for Spear Financial, their work, bond counsel, the refunding itself. There's a rounding. Always bonds are sold at $5,000 increments. And then the total underwriter's discount. And this is really where I want to talk to you. On a competitive basis with Spear Financial acting as your independent municipal advisor, we would not recommend that you would use an underwriter's discount of more than 0.8%. So that is 0.8% or about $27,000. That's the amount the underwriter can take out of the deal. When you just negotiate with an underwriter, and there are underwriting firms in Iowa, they would be Northland, D.A. Davidson, Piper Sandler. When you negotiate with those, likely they want to charge you 1% to 1.25% for their services, and that's just bulking up again that cost of issuance. We have successfully for over 10 years now sold at 0.8% as the offering of that underwriter's discount. Now, they may not take all of that, which just, again, means you may be able to lower the size of the debt issuance. But we feel strongly that, that underwriter's discount really does not need to exceed that 0.8%. Speaking about Spear a little bit, we are an independent municipal advisor. We are not an underwriter. By federal regulation, we are required to represent you and only you. An underwriter cannot tell you that. An underwriter has to represent their investors by federal regulation, and their engagement letter would state just that. That by regulation, they do not represent you. Technically, they should not be giving you advice. They can be bringing you numbers and discussing it, but they cannot be giving you advice that, hey, these are great interest rates that we're giving you, because that's a conflict of interest under the federal law. So we do hold strongly our position that an independent municipal advisor is best for cities, counties, school districts, community colleges, because it does give you the opportunity to discuss and say, hey, is this good information or not? Are we getting good interest rates? And again, as we are comparing it with Cedar County, Hiawatha. We had a bond sale yesterday. It was a taxable issue, so we would not align it with this, but we saw very good interest rates, very low interest rates as well yesterday. So I don't want to take a lot more of your time, so if there are any questions, I would be happy to answer them or clarify anything that I've stated.
So Maggie, in these numbers, can you identify the ones that are probably the variable numbers that we don't know for sure?
Yeah, so on probably your variables, again, on page 1, we don't have the clearest picture on cost of issuance, but this is our best estimate. And again, we're using that best estimate, that 41,565, based on other sales of similar size with the same bond counsel that you have in the most recent weeks. So we're pretty certain that is where we think the cost of issuance will come in. The other part of that is page 3, that debt service schedule at $3,400,000, where I've drawn an arrow to the 1% and it goes down to a 1.55. That is the variable, and there should be no one that can walk in the door today or get on the phone with you and say that's not a variable because we don't know where interest rates are. There was news today that Johnson & Johnson, they are going to halt that vaccination. We don't know what that's going to do to the market. We don't think it's going to have a negative effect on the market. If anything, it may slow the progression of interest rates going up. So that is the variable at this point in time, is where those interest rates are. But as stated, I really think that it's in your best interest to act, sooner than later. If this is an item that you guys do want to proceed forward with, I think that getting someone on board to act as your municipal advisor, getting a timeline in place, and getting that bond sale done, the sooner you can get that done, the better you are going to be with interest rates. But that's probably your major variable, and that then obviously leads into page 4, which is the ultimate overall savings. We're not going to recommend anything that doesn't have about a 2.5% savings. But this is 8.7%. There's still going to be a very good amount of savings, even if those interest rates would tick up a little bit in the next, few weeks.
So if we started the process after our meeting today, I suppose we have to fill out paperwork. Your plan does not do I can't remember what the term is. We are not going through a rating, right?
At this point in time, that would be up for discussion. We have it in our cost of issuance that you would have a rating. I will tell you this, at $3,400,000, it may be difficult to sell it competitively without a rating. So we have that figured in, and that savings that I talked about on that last page or on page 4, that savings is net of all these cost of issuance. So we do have it in here that you would have a rating done, which can fall right in our timeline of, setting dates of public hearing, holding public hearing, approving official statement, selling the bonds, doing the authorizing and issuance. Those are sort of the steps every couple of weeks that have to occur, and the rating would fall right in there. We do have it in here. In our opinion and what we're seeing in the market, we can sell anything about $2.1 million and above without and below without a rating. When we get into that $3 million range, likely we're not going to get enough bidders that you're going to be satisfied with the results. And so that $12,500 estimate of rating cost, that's where we're saying, it's probably in your best interest. That rating is going to bring additional bidders, and it's also going to bring additional, interest rate driven down. That additional bidders is going to bring competition to those interest rates.
All right. Anybody have any questions? Well, that's all the questions I had, I guess.
All right. Well, if there are any other questions following your meeting today, please don't hesitate to reach out. You have all of our contact information, and we appreciate your time this morning.
All right. Thank you, Maggie.
Thanks, Maggie.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Just got a couple minutes until our next one. Any open forum stuff we can take care of in the meantime?
Yeah, my man came through, huh?
He did.
I won the free golf membership. They hand out, when you sign up, you pick a number out and you get a player in the Masters. And I got the young man from Japanese. No, guy was a good too. I wonder which one of my numbers won it. They came around, they didn't have the board full, and then I bought 3 more numbers.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it was my first one or if it was my second best.
Come on in. Looks like we're at 9:30.
Get close anyway.
3 a.m. Heidi Cool from Northland Securities to discuss refunding the Public Safety Center bonds. Morning.
Good morning. Heidi Cool with Northland Securities. Northland Securities worked with the county for the last about 15 years. I believe my colleague Jeff was calling in. Jeff, are you in on the call at this time?
Yes, I'm on the line.
Heidi Cool and then Jeff is on the phone. Today, what I'd like to talk to the board about is the opportunity for some savings with the outstanding Public Safety Center bonds. Last year, we do have a new board member, so I'll kind of step back, and so it's very nice to meet you, Susan, in person. But I'll step back and, you know, we looked through all of the debt and talked about the debt outstanding, and this public safety center bonds, they're paid back by the debt service levy. And knowing that call date of June 1 of 2021, when that date comes up, if rates were low at that time, it would be a good candidate to do a refunding, which is a refinancing in other terms, at lower interest rates than when the bonds were issued. So what that means is that you will take all of the bonds after that 6/1 of 2021. You will call those outstanding bonds, pay those off, and then replace them with new bonds at the new rate. What that does is that at that time, you do lock in for a period of time with a new call date where the rates are locked into a new call date, but you do realize savings. Since these bonds are paid back with that debt service levy, you'll just realize each year after that, when Carla does her budget, she'll budget for that lower payment, realizing the savings. So today I wanted to talk about those options of the financing. It looks like you have copies in front of you. I have a non-rated option and a rated option in front of you. If you don't have those, I'll.
Can you explain to us what the rated versus non-rated is going to do?
Absolutely. So the county has an outstanding rating of A+. So when a rated bond versus a non-rated bond, it's an extra step that you would have with a rating company. Currently, you have a rating with S&P. So what that does is that puts, you go through the process, get that rating, you pay a fee for it, and then in the bond market, see that rating and you get lower interest rates. So there's things to think about with, rated versus non-rated. There's an additional fee with it, but you also get lower interest rate savings at the size of the bonds. The rated option would have additional savings. But it has that extra step, that extra call that the county goes through. So if you'll see with the rating and the non-rated options that I have in front of you today, with that, assuming A+ rates, as of the market, as of yesterday, I put together a scenario with rates as of today, with the cost of issuance. Page 3 shows a total savings of $356,000, just based off the rates as of yesterday.
And that's the non-rated.
That's the rated.
Oh, that's the rated, okay.
Yep. Looking at non-rated rates, that same page, if you do look at I have a savings of $329,000. The next pages after that, if you compare them, you'll see that with the non-rated option, you have a higher par amount that you're paying back because that'll pay for the fee, but the rates are lower. So that's not a decision, that the board would need to make today, but it's when you're going out into the bond market, looking at those two options. Traditionally, in working with Northland has done a negotiated sale, meaning that Northland Securities is a full-service broker-dealer. We buy and sell bonds in the market in the numbers of over 200 million bonds per week. So we know the market. So we buy the bonds and then find the buyers of the market that day. The advantages to that has been that Northland's fee is set up front. 2 is that when Northland buys the bonds, they're offered out in the market, and they're offered out to all the banks within the Midwest, meaning that if your local banks within the county want to buy into a portion of them at market rates, they're able to do that. So that's the advantages of the negotiated sale. The other advantages of Northland, and we've done this for other county clients too, is we can work in multiple roles. We can work negotiate the bonds. We can work as placement agent to find one buyer, one bank, outside of the municipal securities market. And then we also can work as a municipal advisor as well. So we can put the bonds out to bid, and then the underwriters competitively bid on that. So we have that flexibility to do that as well. So I did want to note that to the board, that Northland can do all those. Traditionally, with Winnebago County, Northland has been an underwriter with that advantage of having the local banks, having a portion, I'm sorry, I'm stepping over myself a little bit, having the ability to have the local banks buy in at market rates. Another thing to talk about is I talked a little bit about private placement too, is something the board could look at. In the past year, Northland's been doing a few more private placements because of where the banks are at, and they have with a lot of the money that they have in the bank, just because of COVID and stimulus dollars, banks have a lot more money in the bank, and they are can be very aggressive. Looking at this structure, you're 15 years out, that could be very well a good option as well. You don't know until you find a bank if they can be as competitive as the bond market. I've done a couple deals this year where we've tried to get bids from banks first. We've gone ahead with the banks. If the bids don't come in appropriately, then we've gone and done a bond deal. So there's options of how you would want to look at this financing. Northland has worked for the county for many years, and we really appreciate the opportunity to present to you today. I know that the county is looking at some of my competitors today, and that's always a good thing. It makes sure that those who you're working with are sharpening their pencils and making sure that we're doing a fair job to you, and we'd hope to continue to do that. If there's anything that comes up or questions, we would love to answer them. Hope to continue to earn that business, and I guess I'll open it up to the board to see if you have any questions based on what you're seeing today.
So, I don't know if you could make a recommendation on this. Right now, do you think the best way to go is a rated or non-rated, or there's savings, but then if you go with a rated, doesn't that delay the process a little bit?
So you do have to schedule a rating call, and that call has to happen, so it can add a couple weeks to the process, and then also the legwork involved as well on the county's part to do that. So I'm not giving a recommendation either way, but
When was our last rating done? That was like 4 years ago.
it was
When we did this one.
I believe it was with the 16 bonds.
Yeah.
So
And
it has been.
I think I was chair then,
Yep.
and Carla and I were on that call, and it's a little bit of work.
This is Jeff. Can I just jump in a second?
Sure.
You talk about the recommendation and the rating. When you look at the difference of savings, there's about $30,000 roughly. When you look at that, what's the risk of delaying? the cost is that 30,000 includes the cost of the rating, but if interest rates, none of us know what they're going to do, but if interest rates would happen to, start going up even 5 basis points, all of a sudden, savings have dropped, 40 or 50,000, on 5 and 10 basis points. So the risk is as that goes down, or rates go up, in the delay of the rating, you're risking what that $30,000 is. And what we've done in a lot of them in the past is, particularly in these where it's borderline, is if you go through the rating, and let's just say a major crisis in the world happened, and it can happen at any time. If you pay, the rating's going to cost you $15,000 or so. If something would happen in the market, and it can happen overnight, and rates could go up 1% even. They could. I'm not saying it's likely, but it could. You have to pay that rating fee, and it may get to the point where, in an overnight situation, you may not proceed, but you still have that bill. So that's partly the risk, is if you go to the rating for that 30,000, there's a risk with that because you've got to follow through and pay for it. And there's a circumstances that you don't follow through with the refinancing. So if it was a much greater, we've seen these where all of a sudden it's $50,000 to $100,000 savings for a rating, then that's a place where I highly recommend it. In this case, I'll step out a little bit. For the risk of 30,000, I would probably lean against a rating at this time. And I also wanted to add, when Heidi showed the savings, we showed an actual principal to principal amount. We can show savings if you keep your payment the same as what they are and have advanced. There's many ways competitors show more savings. We can definitely show more savings if we creep up and pay principal faster. But what we're showing you is a true apples to apples of your old debt versus if we put in new. So I just wanted to add that.
So if we decided to keep the same payment and
Yes.
we're putting more money towards principal, does
Yes.
that have to be determined before the sale?
Right, yes. Good. Yeah, you could hold your public hearing, get that all done, and just when you're ready to go to sale, you let whoever's doing your business say, hey, we want to maybe increase our principal amount or keep it the same, and then when we take it to the market, whether it would be a competitive sale, if we did a public sale, or if we negotiate or private, we would let the buyer know at that time.
All right. Anybody have any questions? Bill, you got any questions?
It's good to have both of these, I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
No, not really. I think it's just.
So on here, your fees are just built into the overall cost.
Yep. The overall cost is on, it says page 1, but it's actually page 2. So we have a total for the non-rated rates of $38,000. And then what we have proposed in here is $8 per bond.
So Heidi, explain the difference between the issuance cost, the underwriter's discount, and the bond counsel and the rating fees.
Yep. So what's all included in that $38,000 is an estimate for your bond counsel fee. Also, you'll have a paying agent fee that sets up the new bonds, and then a call fee to call up those. And those will be the same across the board. Your bond counsel fee will be the bond counsel fee, those call fees. And then that rating agency fee will be the same, whoever you would work with. And then, one other fee that I don't have in the non-rated, just to give you one other thought, is is insurance on the bonds. That could be an additional fee, like a rating. However, the call and the legwork is, does the call with the rating agency, that's not, there isn't that additional legwork, there isn't that additional time. Typically, that fee's a little bit higher than a rating fee, but you'd end up somewhere in between non-rated and rated. So we do evaluate that each time. It just depends on how those bids come in as well. So, and then you'll see with that non-rated option that I have there, the reason that cost of issuance goes up, from the non-rated option to at that 38,000 to the 51 is because of that rating, that estimated rating fee that is included in there.
Okay.
We don't have a lot of time today. I wanted to just update you with the book that we have with all your outstanding debt. Can go over that at any time. It has our contact information, or reach out to Carla too with any questions, and I'd be happy to answer them at any time.
I would just finish up, we have all those fees are to other vendors, and our fees, the underwriter's discount, she shows you we have 0.8%. Iowa law has underwriters can be anywhere from 0 to 2%. So we're proposing a 0.8, not just under 1%, a 0.8, and that includes everything for official statement and covering some others in our competitor world where we take on all of that of this disclosure, and some others may require a bond underwriter's disclosure fee on top, where we cover all of that in our fee, so there's not an additional fee for that. And so we just glad to have the opportunity to present to you, and hopefully continue to be able to work with you.
All right. Well, we've got to keep moving on our schedule here, so I appreciate the information, and if we have any questions, we'll give you a call.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we'll both be available for calls if you got any questions.
All right. Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, it's a little after 9:45. We've got Nathan Summers, D.A. Davidson, to discuss refunding with the Public Safety Center bonds. Nathan, are you on the phone?
Nathan?
Yes.
Oh, there you are. All right. I guess we're up to you now.
I thought. Thank you. I'm sorry. I thought I heard Northland was maybe still speaking, and just out of respect for them, I dropped off the line to give them space. So
That's fine. We were just running a little behind, is all. So
Okay.
Go ahead and give us what you have for us for any opportunities.
sure. Yeah. Well, thank you to the county for entertaining our thoughts here on the refinancing of your 2016 B bonds. They are currently callable as of June 1st of 2021, and so with interest rates being lower than they were in 2016, who thought we'd say that? But here we are. Looks like there's some opportunity for the county to experience some savings. So I had sent Carla some updated numbers on the 9th, so hopefully that's the date in the bottom left-hand corner of the reports you're looking at.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Interest rates obviously are moving around daily, going up and down just based on, a lot of it's based on the news cycle. A lot of it right now is pretty heavily based on, what expectations are with where COVID stuff is going with vaccines new vaccines becoming available, and I just saw this morning that Johnson & Johnson, they're experiencing maybe some issues with that. So all these daily news cycle things are making interest rates jump up and down. So just want to have you keep in mind that as you're looking at these proposals, interest rates are going to be different based on whatever day, whichever proposer is looking at it. So these rates are based on a bond sale that happened in the market last week for the city of Hiawatha. Similar size, similar credit rating as what we would expect the county to receive. And I adjusted it because after that bond sale, interest rates went down a little bit on the 8th, and so I ran this on the 9th. Again, just keep in mind the interest rates are bouncing around, so all these savings numbers are subject to change. But basically, if you flip to page 2, true interest cost on the new bonds, assuming those Hiawatha interest rates plus some market movement. True interest cost kind of sums up the interest rates and yields the county is paying plus the underwriter's discount. So the new true interest cost on the new bonds, I'm estimating about 1.26%. The average coupon of the refunded bonds, kind of the weighted average coupon, is at 2.68%, and coming up with net present value savings of about $326,000. And that is a calculation that takes the time value of money into account, and that's kind of the thought that a dollar today is not going to be valued the same as a dollar 15 years from now. That dollar 15 years from now is going to be valued a little bit less because of inflation. It's kind of the theory there with present value savings. So the percentage savings of the refunded bonds is at 9.7%. Typically, on a current refunding, we'd want to see that at least 3% or so. You could dip down into 2 or 2.5% if you really think we're at the bottom and rates are going up. But at 9.7%, the savings here are plenty adequate for the county to be considering moving forward and have it be a worthwhile venture. If you flip to page 3, this is showing kind of the annual layout of the savings. We're looking at, between $20,000 to $26,000 or so of annual savings on a present value basis. If you look at that on a gross or nominal basis, it's about $352,000 without factoring in the time value of money. So if you're just looking at gross raw savings, about $352,000 is what you'd be looking at. And just based on market movement, even over the weekend and through yesterday, that's probably a little bit stronger if we were selling the bonds today, so you might add a few $1,000s to that for market movement, just ballparking that. One thing I did not include in this analysis would be the addition of bond insurance, and that's kind of just what it sounds like. It's an insurance policy that the county would pay for, just like you would pay for a rating, and the objective there is to get interest rates driven down as far as you possibly can. So if the county wants to maximize savings, we would look at adding bond insurance on top of the rating. And so that might add an additional $10,000 or so of savings on top of that. And the bond insurance is little to no work on the part of the county. It's basically signing a commitment letter with the insurer. It's a one-time fee that you pay up front. It's all wrapped into the bond issue and the savings figures. And I would say that would probably net out an additional $10,000 of savings. If the county doesn't really want to go through the rating process, we have also had some luck with having these types of bond issues insured with no rating. So that would be another option that you might look at if you don't want to go through the work of the rating process or the timing of that additional timing that the rating process would take up. It wouldn't have much time, but you can get a little bit of market movement if it drags it out for another week or two. So you could go non-rated, insured, and that would probably land you, in the ballpark of $15,000 less than this rated savings figure. So this is kind of, if you go the standard rated route, selling the bonds in a negotiated sale, we estimate you get about $352,000 of savings. If you add bond insurance on top of that, you can increase it by about $10,000. If you take the rating away and keep the bond insurance, you're probably going to be about $15,000 less than the savings figure. But one other thing, we can also adjust the structure of the bonds. I've structured this to kind of be a uniform savings where your savings is about the same every year. You could accelerate the principal payments and pay this thing off a little bit more quickly. And if you're making principal payments more quickly, you are obviously going to pay less interest over the course of the bond issue. So if that's something the county wants to look at, we could also increase the savings in that manner. If you want to kind of keep your annual payments about the same as what they've been, keep your debt service levy about where it's been, and just pay it down more quickly, we could also look at that as well. Something else to think about, we do a fair amount of private placements or bank placements where you engage a single lender as a bank and execute these transactions more like a loan than a bond sale. And the benefit to that is we have a lot of flexibility. We have a lot of relationships with banks in northern Iowa and across the Midwest and across the nation, as a matter of fact. And at times, the banks can get fairly aggressive, and they can kind of surprise us with how aggressive they can be. And so we always, as a standard practice, will kind of gauge bank interest ahead of any bond sale. So before we go through with the rating process, we kind of get the thoughts of our covey of banks that we know are extremely aggressive on these. And if banks are outperforming what our estimates are in the bond market, we can easily hit the ripcord, pull the parachute, and just do a bank loan instead of going through the whole bond sale process. We find that the economics are pretty similar, or sometimes even better. So that's something else to keep in mind. As far as fees and costs go, if you want to flip back to the first page, cost of issuance there, about 3/4 of the way down. Cost of issuance would include legal fees. You're going to pay a bond attorney to help shepherd the county through the legal process of issuing the bonds, as well as some additional guidance in putting the official statement, the offering document together. There's a paying agent. I've got the rating fee in there for cost of issuance as well. Our underwriter's discounts, I believe I've got in there at 0.8% or $8 a bond. Typically, if there's a municipal advisor involved, I know you folks are talking to some other firms, and if you go the municipal advisor route and you want to pick your underwriter that you're working with, there's less work there for us. If you have an advisor, they typically kind of take the lead role in some of the document assembly and stuff like that. So we can, if you have a municipal advisor involved, we can probably decrease our fee to 0.7% or $7 a bond, just because there's a little bit less work there for us. And in that case, you still get the advantage of going through a negotiated sale and being able to have control of where the bonds end up. We're always going to give the local banks rights of first refusal, so we'll set the rates where we see rates falling nationally, and then offer them to the banks, the local banks, and give them the opportunity to participate first. Sometimes they don't have the desire or ability to do so, and if that's the case, we can move on, and we've got a lot of banks across the Iowa and the Midwest and the nation that would be happy to participate in buying these bonds. So as an underwriter, federal regulations do require us to deal fairly with the county. So even though we're not acting in an advisory capacity formally, we do still have a requirement to deal fairly with the county, which means we have to sell bonds at fair interest rates. And so obviously if we go around taking advantage of people on interest rates and fees, it's not good business practice, because hopefully if we have the opportunity to work with Winnebago County, we'd like to continue that relationship for many years to come. And if we go around taking advantage of people, that's obviously not our best interest on a business front. We've been the number one underwriter in the state since 1989, formerly acting as Ruan Securities. We've been DA Davidson since, I believe, 2014. Routinely, we've been number one in the state. Last year, we were the most active underwriter as well on a negotiated basis. Additionally, we can also act as a municipal advisor or an underwriter. We can't do both, but we can also be your municipal advisor if that's what you prefer. If you prefer us to act in that advisory role and either competitively sell the bonds or find another underwriter to sell the bonds. We can wear the municipal advisor hat, but we typically find that the additional layer of fee costs from the advisor, especially on a deal that's this size, once you get out in the market, that additional fee can have an impact on your savings. It's hard to actually quantify how that actually works out or not, but we find typically the most efficient way is to act as underwriter on these, but we're open to other avenues. I'll pause there and just see if anyone has any questions.
Well, I guess, we've been looking at both the possibility of going the non-rated or the rated way. Now, did you say you can also purchase bond insurance if you're non-rated?
Yeah, that's correct. We've had a fair amount of success with that over the last year or two, especially for an issuer that's your size with your tax base, and the size of the bond issue and your outstanding rating. I don't think we would have a whole lot of trouble getting a bond insurer to go ahead and approve the transaction for bond insurance. So that would be, like I said, it'd be less work for the county. Not that the rating process is overly onerous, but there's typically about a 1 hour phone call, and there can be a little bit of follow-up work after the call, just tracking down some information and providing some due diligence items for the rating analyst. So it's a little bit of extra work, but for the savings, we typically recommend having the rating. Just makes the bonds more marketable and drives down the interest rates.
All right. Anybody else have any questions?
So that bond insurance is, if you have no rating, it's like an additional $5,000 for the insurance. Is that right?
So if you said if you don't have a rating?
Right.
Yeah, so if you don't have a rating and you had bond insurance, on my savings figure, you might take off $10,000 or so.
Oh, take off.
It might not quite come out the same as rated. It might come in a little bit less, but not by a lot.
But the cost of
If you just go non-rated with no bond insurance, it's probably going to be something like $35,000 less than what I'm showing there.
and we don't know the cost of the bond insurance until we try to get it, right?
The cost of the bond insurance, it would be wrapped up into those figures. It's typically going to be about 20 to 25 basis points of the total debt service. So on this deal, let's see. It's going to be about $8,000, $8,500, something like that. But like I said, that's kind of wrapped up into the analyses that I ran.
That's the rated, that's
and that's-
the rated on a rated one or on a non-rated one?
That's just the cost of the bond insurance. It would be about $8,000 to $8,500.
So it doesn't really matter if you're going the non-rated or rated process, it's gonna be with the same cost for the insurance?
Correct. Yeah. But those savings figures that I'm talking about are all net of all of those costs. I've already factored in the cost of the rating and the rating insurance into those analyses. So
Okay.
by order of savings, if you get a rating and bond insurance, that's going to give you the most savings. If you go rated with no bond insurance, that's probably going to net you a little bit more savings. If you go bond insurance with no rating, that'll get you the next most. And if you just go non-rated with no bond insurance, that'll get you the least amount of savings.
Yep. But once again, it's a guessing game on whether the timing's good to be doing the non-rated process delayed a little bit, and know whether we're gonna have a market going up in the meantime.
Yeah, I suppose there can be a little bit of risk there. I mean, going through the rating process, it might add another week or so, just based on the availability of analysts at S&P to schedule a rating call and get things into a committee. It's probably about a 2-week process, but in the overall deal calendar, it probably winds up adding like a week.
Yeah.
And you can get interest rates going up in a week, certainly. You can get them coming down in a week. You just never know where interest rates are going to land, so.
Yeah, they can go up overnight.
They sure can.
Now, the bond insurance, is that so to continue the payments in case there's some kind of a disaster in the county, or what?
Yeah, exactly. So, yep. So bond insurance, it's just what it sounds like. It's an insurance policy that the county purchases from an insurance company. In this case, we typically find that the most benefit comes from an insurer called Build America Mutual, or BAM. And it's an insurance policy. The county pays for it up front. It's the cost of it is wrapped into the bond issue, so that the savings that you'll see are net of that insurance premium. You pay a one-time premium at the front end of the bond issue, and then for the life of the bond issue, if the county ever has something significant happen where you can't make the debt service payment, principal and or interest, if something gets messed up in the budget and you don't levy enough in your debt service levy, and something just goes haywire, or there's a timing issue, but the insurance policy steps in and makes that principal and interest payment on behalf of the county. So yeah, if there's a major disaster, or something gets messed up in the budget, and you find that you're short on your funds to be able to make your debt service payment, this type of thing rarely, if ever, happens on general obligation bonds. It's actually never happened in Iowa, but investors like the comfort that it gives, and we do find the additional benefit reflected in interest rates. So anytime you can alleviate investors' concerns about risk, they're going to reward you with lower interest rates.
You gotta wonder if some of these investors own that company.
I was having the same thought.
It's a vicious circle.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions for Nathan?
No.
All right,
I will add. I looked at what you've been charged for underwriter's discount since 2015. I came up with an average of about 1.46%. So I'm not sure what Northland was proposing, but I know they typically worked for more in the past. So something more in the $8 per bond range, or 0.8%, I think would be appropriate for this one. So
all right. Appreciate it.
I'll end with that.
All right, thank you, Nathan, and if we have any questions, we'll give you a call.
Sounds good. Thank you, folks.
All right, thank
Thank you.
Oh, I need to take a quick break. We'll come back.
Stiffen up,
Where
buddy.
your mortise sets in.
Susan.
discussion with possible action regarding COVID-19 policies. I don't know if Julie's been.
Good morning. Yep, I'm here.
I'm glad to have you. You have any updates for us?
No, just what was actually released just this morning. They halted the J&J vaccine. So we had 2 clinics. We have 2 vials left. So we had a clinic today and tomorrow, and we have halted that. And between us and our partners last week, we gave 400 doses out. So.
And really, it's only, what, 4 people that got the blood clots in how many millions? 3.5 million or something?
Yeah, something like that, yep. But they halted it, so.
Okay. So for the most part, it's not gonna affect us much, because we haven't.
No, because we are been giving Moderna out. And we have a clinic in the office that is full, Thursday. So.
Do they even know if the blood clots were caused by the vaccine?
They don't.
People get
They
blood
don't.
clots anyway, and the percentage is so low that it's.
Yeah, they gave the numbers of people that get blood clots every year, and it's a pretty small number.
Well, yeah.
All right.
But they're going on the side of precaution, and
Sure.
that's, yep, so.
All right.
Otherwise, we're just busy giving out our vaccine that we have.
You're not having any problem filling your appointments then?
Not at this time. Our list is getting shorter, so if people would like it, they need to call our office to get put on the list. I have to have 10 to open a vial.
Right.
So once I get 10, then I call those 10 people and set up a time.
And we're still sharing with 2 of our vendors?
As of this moment, yes, but their lists are small too, so we've kind of been sharing our lists with each other, so.
All right. Okay. How many, as of recent, Modernas have we been getting per week?
200.
Okay. So that's been pretty steady the whole time then?
Yeah, since February.
Okay. Anything else?
Not that I can think of, just that we're having a prime dose this Thursday here in our office, and then we have our return boost at Pacific on the 21st and next week. And then we have a couple businesses boost on Friday.
All right. Okay. Well, any questions from anyone?
No. Thanks, Julie.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you. Consider for approval cleanup of language in cell phone policy reimbursements.
What is,
So the county attorney just changed the.
Yeah, the wording, when we just changed the dollar amount, it didn't work quite right. So on there I have what she changed it to, the red lined one, and then the old policy.
okay, the red line that's black lined on this, you mean?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
You're supposed to go with what I mean, not what I say.
First page is the original.
The new one.
The new one?
It's the new one, cause it's 40.
Oh, yeah, okay, all right.
So is this, a policy that was it ever just decided by each department?
No.
Never.
Other than public health
Public
has
health.
their own.
Yeah, I guess, but
Yeah,
it's
they're
less,
kind of autonomous.
it is less than what our policy says though, so
Yeah.
it, and it does say that the department heads can just choose to lower the amount.
They just can't raise it.
Yes.
Yeah, department head may choose to reimburse the employer at a rate lower than the maximum rate. Mhm. Do you have any phone calls about it?
The cell phone policy? No.
Nobody, did anybody say anything?
I haven't sent it out to everybody yet though, because
You gotta clean it up.
it didn't make sense.
What's our thoughts?
Change addresses, so we just need to make a motion to approve the cleaning up of the language in the cell phone policy.
Yep.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
On a motion from Jensvold and a second from Smith to approve the cleaning up of the language in cell phone reimbursement policy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Needs to be stamped.
Oh, what do you do
Just
these?
front page probably. Updated stamp. Well, there's one underneath that has a different date of 17. So we're just updating the stamp.
Yeah. I thought you meant update that I had to change the date.
No, I trust with all your vast experience.
I just couldn't believe that you
I've seen things
had
come
thought that I
across
had
here.
not already taken care of that issue.
Excuse me.
Alright.
Kind of important. On the right date.
Yeah, no, there have been vast stampings in the past
Oh,
with
really?
the wrong
Oh,
date
yeah,
on
a
it.
whole pile.
Oh,
One of those
really?
busy days.
Yeah,
Was
You
it the
come back
wrong
the next
year
week
as
going,
well?
oops.
was it me running the stamper?
I don't know.
I think that might have been Mike.
I know I've
He's not
done,
here, so we'll blame it
I
on
think
him.
I've done it for a short period of time.
Yeah, I don't think I've made it all the way through the pile. But,
Consider for approval resolution to, oh no, we got Scott Miners, I gotta call him. Are you available? All right.
Yes. I think so. Yep. Did you see it as well though?
I got one.
Oh, you got it.
Morning.
Morning.
Morning. Payroll.
What do you have for us today?
Well, I got, it's not an agenda item, but our final vouchers for the projects that Eric had emailed you
Right.
about.
Saw that.
All the paving projects have been complete for some time, as you all know, by Matthew, but there's some paperwork that they've been a little slow on, and they also went a few days over the contract period, so had to have deducted some liquidated damages, and they disputed that, and so that took a little bit of time, but ultimately we held our ground on it because all the contractors bid the job the same, and we didn't really have any conditions that were out of the ordinary. They just were late to show up and chose other jobs before ours. So
What was that for again? Sorry.
all the paving projects from last summer. So the final vouchers take the board chair's signature in order to close out the project. Most of these dollars are farm to market or swap funds, so they don't go through our local budget, but in any case require the board chair signature. So this has final quantities and everything finalized, and all this does is release the retainage to the contractor. Everything is done now. Final paperwork and everything is completed. And DOT will process this and release their retainage after they've done their checks and balances. As far as maintenance goes in the road department, you guys are getting very close to finish with stockpiling, which is good here, as we are just in the very beginning of April. So if conditions are fit, we'll switch to some spot loading after trucks are cleaned and serviced and kind of caught up that way. Hopefully we should have final marketing list for our auction here next week. I'll probably have it kind of just entered into the minutes, just so that stuff is published. Met with the auctioneer last week and kind of got a game plan for everything, so we'll have a lot of stuff on there. It'll be a very nice auction, and hopefully we get some really good traffic here come May when the auction is.
What's the date of that again? Keep getting to May.
I want to say 13th. Is that the Thursday of that week?
13th is a Thursday.
Yeah, 13th, so a month from today.
It's a Thursday.
Mhm.
Oh, we're
We'll
not
have-
doing a Saturday sale then.
Thursday sale this year. Yep. We'll have some trucks. The Oshkosh will be on there. Pickups. We'll have bridge lumber and guardrail and some old pumps and generators and supplies and parts, concrete forms, bridge beams, all kinds of things. We're trying to do a real good spring cleanup here.
Where will it be at?
It'll be located at our Thompson Mechanic Shop on the highway at 10 a.m. And it will also be online bidding available, I think maybe 2 weeks in advance of the auction, and then they'll close during the live portion of the auction. So it'll be exciting this year. We haven't done online before, so hopefully that really helps our bidding. And
Did you bid on that one I sent you?
like I said, the shipping would have been pretty crazy.
There was a, similar to an Oshkosh, I would say. Oh, yeah, a lot more updated.
Yeah.
A French version. It had wings on both sides and V plow.
Quite handy.
It was, yeah.
Looks like it would have been
would
really.
do Rice Lake in a heart.
That's what it would have been really nice for, something that turns sharp, but has wide
or like a
blades.
And where
pilot
was
knob.
it at?
Out in France, and I told him if he needed somebody to go out and, do the organization of the shipping, I would gladly go.
with a little stop at the Riviera.
I think it was in northern France.
Oh.
Yeah, if we had, 50, 60 miles of Rice Lake type roads, we'd have to.
You got a little bit of
have to have
pilot
some-
knob.
Yeah, but just not enough to have a specific machine that's perfect for it. The pickup obviously has the front plow specific for that, but it's not.
So the replacement of the Oshkoshes is being done with maintainers?
Yeah, so we'll kind of after this maneuver, we'll have graders for every winter territory plus 2 standby maintainers, which is
Wow.
I'd say more reliable fleet than we've had. So, inevitably, when things are going wrong and the snow is blowing and it's very cold outside, there's one down all the time. It's like you got to just keep cycling them around and try to keep things on the road. So, in the winter, 2 standby maintainers, 2 standby trucks to try and keep things moving all the time.
So what are those bridge timbers? What are they normally lengthwise? Are they always different lengths?
There are pretty common lengths. So the bridge decking is 3 by 12, and those are the ones that go transverse across the road on top, the planks, and those are usually 24 foot long if they're undamaged. So 3 by 12 by 24 foot long, that's typical. There's always scraps, but that's typical. And underneath of that, the stringers go the opposite way. They go with traffic, and those are always 6 by 16s. And the length varies depending on the span of the bridge. But I would say 16 foot to 24, maybe most typical. And those are really, really stout. And I'm not sure what people do with those.
What are they made of?
They're made of creosote treated timber, fir, I think. Yeah. They're,
I've seen, it's mostly livestock people that buy them.
yeah, the planking is something you can handle. The stringers, they're 6 inches thick, so to put a bolt through that in a post, I don't know. Maybe if you're building a structure and using that for like the, support beams or something, and the post, whatever, maybe. They're creosote treated, however many in the 60s, 50s, 40s, whatever. And if you cut them now, they'll bleed. So
Wow.
they're well treated, and most of them in very good condition. It's not those that cause the bridges to be replaced, it's the piling. The piece at the very bottom that you can't replace without taking it all apart. So, that's why those timbers are in such good condition. So those are the 2 main things we have. We also have some piling that I think is new and never used. We're getting part with that, which is like a foot or 16-inch diameter posts, somewhere between 20 and 35 foot long. Those could be cut up and used for livestock as well, I imagine. Or, like I said, a pole building or something like that they'd work for. What else? On top of those piling, there's a cap that the stringers sit on. Those are 12 by 12 by 24, most likely. Those are very, very heavy too, and would take kind of a specific use for, I think, but it's all going to sell.
Is that creosote too?
Yep, it's all creosote treated, and so it's also a little bit tough to handle too because it's carcinogen and can be really hard on your skin.
Don't ever cut up creosote telephone poles with short saw, with a chainsaw.
Yeah, it's long sleeve work with all the PPE, and
I sat in the tub trying to keep my legs from burning for hours.
yeah, it's not news to me. I grew up around it, so it was always long sleeve and long pants work. But
Yeah,
you hear
this
kind of
is-
bad stories about guys who don't know that. But
I was
I made an
not-
emphasis that any of our guys that are new around it need to be wearing the right stuff
I
when we
was
work around
15 or
it.
16.
Yeah.
Dad had a jug of creosote in his garage underneath and the metal can rusted out, and he had a stack of shingles. They were chemically bonded with a stack of shingles in there. It took me hours to get that scraped out. Nasty darn stuff. How big are the smallest ones?
The caps or the planking's 3 by 12.
3 inches, the least width of
Yep.
any of it?
Yep.
I need to put new flooring in an old beat up horse trailer I got.
Yeah.
That
Could be
be a little.
Might be some scraps that are thinner. Sometimes the decking isn't planks, it's more like a laminated
Yeah.
2x4s next to each other. Those usually don't come up very good and get destroyed.
Are there any that are, I suppose they're about 6 foot wide, they'd have to be, or 6 foot long? See any scraps that are that size, or?
Whatever's there, we're gonna get rid of it, but a lot of times scraps that short, we'd probably just load up and haul to the landfill because it comes out in splinters.
Well, I would hope that with the price of building materials right now, that this would be a premium time to sell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully that's touching the same part of the market. Hopefully.
And like you say, it's amazing how good a shape that stuff stays in.
Yeah, it really is.
I did see on Hallberg's auction over at the yard, the last time they did have some 2x4s that were bringing premium prices. They're paying up for them, so.
Have they already taken pictures of everything? Or you say
No,
it'll
they've
be-
taken kind of pictures for the sale bill, but they haven't taken pictures for the online catalog, so they'll be doing that probably in a couple weeks. Just right before it goes active or whatever.
And is it already being staged out there? Have you already?
Well, we're moving around, you know, the thing with cataloging online is, the difference from prior auctions is, here we have a stack of lumber, all right, who wants some, give me your price, maybe I'll take 50 pieces. But now we're separated into stacks, okay, these 50 pieces are the ones you buy, you don't pick from the stack, these are the 50, these are the 50, these
You
are the
give the
50.
details of the nominal size and
Yeah,
things.
so we have to have everything ID'd and separated, so a big pile that's
That's a lot.
50 deep and 50 tall is not very useful to catalog. So we got to try to stack it in ways that it's separated so we can photograph it and catalog it and everything. So there's a lot of work on the front end here that hopefully will gain on the back end in convenience and loading out, but I'm not sure. But it's a lot of work. And so we've started to move stuff around, and we've done a couple tours through and said this needs to go, this doesn't, but ultimately we're gonna have to kind of empty out our cold storage building with our equipment, line that up neatly somewhere, pull everything off the shelves and kind of stack it back in the way we want to keep it, and the stuff that we don't want to keep goes on a pallet and kind of tie it together somehow or put it in a box or whatever, and line them up, catalog them. I mean, you've seen online catalogs, I'm sure, they're just forever 16 pages full of everything down to the advertising pencils out of the junk drawer, you know. We won't have any of those, of course, but that's typical from a street auctions.
Or a Jen's Fold thermometer.
We
Yeah.
are bidding on it, yes.
Yeah, there you go, things like that that you never thought would bring money but do. So there's a lot of things we talked about, whether to junk or scrap, and he said really the best thing overall on an average is to just put it on the auction. So we're gonna probably err on that
So you
side.
get rid of it.
Yep, and scrap price is pretty good now too, so hopefully that helps prices for anybody who's a scrapper looking to buy stuff, and hopefully we don't get
Metals,
burned
runs,
that
up.
way.
So
It was 160 about a month ago, a little over a month ago. Now I'm pretending to be a farmer, I'm writing it down. It's down to 130 now that the weather's got better and all that. People must be hauling more in.
130 is the number I got when I called the other day.
Yeah.
130, what do you,
Which is still considerable better than a year ago. I think it was about 30.
yeah, I gave it away. I gave a whole load away.
Yeah, I
I was
took-
ready to get rid of it.
That's
I
right.
had one trailer load in, only because I wanted to get my trailer empty.
Yeah, it's funny too, because I think it was last summer we took an entire scrap semi-trailer full too, and it's just funny how.
Yep.
how
I told the kid he could have it if he came and picked it all up and hauled it himself, and it was worth it.
So I guess the auction's gonna be a big deal for us for the next few weeks, trying to get ready.
Yeah.
So we'll try to do that and get some work orders when the weather's nice, and when it's a little wet or whatever, we'll jump to the auction yard and try to balance that kind of thing.
on roads, the only complaint I gotta have on the roads is on the edge, the piles. I mean, some of them are this tall.
Yeah.
We have a piece of equipment that can chew that up. Why aren't we doing that?
Yeah,
Have we used it yet this year?
we haven't had that piece of equipment out yet. We don't have a rental tractor yet.
Oh,
So the tractor we use for that is the same one that pulls our batwing mower. And don't think we have it yet. I know Ethan checked on it, so it may be soon. Typically in the last couple of years when we did get it out, we were probably cutting, let's say, 18 inches off the shoulders and bringing it to the middle and beating it up. The big piles seem big, but they're probably cutting, I would say, 3-4 inches. So comparatively to those piles, a lot less, but I know what you mean. I've seen some pretty big ones.
It looks like it's mostly sod.
Yeah.
It looks like sod when it comes up. You will find material in there as it dries out, and they kind of take it back and forth. The first round in the spring, some of the guys will kind of double round. They'll bring everything to the middle, try to get as much material to the crown as they can so that the road sheds water, and then they'll kind of lay it over on the side until it dries out, and they'll work it back a couple times before it shakes out enough where you don't have that kind of hazard out there. I can check to see if we can do a little bit more when we get the tractor with
What's
it.
the policy at the end of field driveways or lanes? You know, it kind of seems like they swoop in a little bit, and then you end up with a divot right at the end of the lanes. I know you guys don't want the private drives and lanes to be higher than your road, but then when they dip that, it just really kind of gets quite some divots.
Yeah.
I've seen that on specifically my home place.
Sure.
there.
Does your driveway slope down from the road or up?
Down.
Down?
It's just left quite a divot at the end of that driveway, so I don't know what the policy is. I mean, I know you guys don't like anybody to be higher.
Yeah. As far as policy goes, we would have nothing in writing. When we do driveway permit reviews, we're pretty diligent about trying to make sure driveways slope down from the road so we don't have, runoff from properties and have hazards out there for wings on the snowplows and stuff like that. In terms of the guys blading it every day in their routines, wouldn't have any policy. It's something we'd have to look at on a case-by-case basis. If you got one you don't like, we can look at it.
Yeah.
It's nice to keep it as flat as possible.
We have, a couple guys who have changed territories too, so, some of it is getting it how they, every guy has a little bit different strategy. There's no way around that.
Yeah, there are places where the stuff on the side isn't as bad in different areas, and then there's areas where it is worse. So to me, it seemed like it maybe that operator.
It could be. For me, I know it's a hazard and it's tough to see, but it means that when that shakes out, we'll have good crown in the road, and that road will be in better condition than it was. Instead of trying to just feather the sides the whole summer and fighting the washboards and potholes, that road will be in better condition in the future. So it is a necessary thing to do. Whether we can try and get those beat up a little quicker, something that we'll have to look into.
That piece of equipment's like a straight Coulter disc. It can move right along, probably 8 to 10 miles an hour, and it just chops everything up.
And then it's
Chops
got like
it.
a
How wide
drag,
is it?
it's got like a drag behind it,
10
right?
foot,
Yeah, probably.
8 foot.
It's got like a harrow behind it then?
Yeah, it's got straight discs, a little different than a normal field disc. They're straight, so they cut.
Coulter discs.
And then it's, I would call it field cultivator shovels, kind of. And then at the end is a tine drag.
Oh.
And
And
it's
you just
usually a
do
multiple pass kind of thing. You just keep going until you lose some.
Pretty quick process, though. I mean, it moves right along.
Yeah.
I remember before we bought it, or as we were buying it, we demonstrated it out by our old potato farm. I mean, it wasn't the best road to start with. We had
Worst.
a lot of crap on the road, and it rained that weekend.
And it was September.
So it was a
Grass was-
perfect time to test it. And this stuff was left in the middle, chopped up, and the rain kind of washed everything down and the rock came up. So I thought it worked really good in that case.
Yes. And those roads too that we did that on, we usually topped them with rock right away. And right now, I said we're stockpiling, hopefully just on the tail end of that. But if you don't have that available, we'll end up with I think we had a mile off the curve south of Thompson last year that we didn't get topped, and it really turned slimy after it rained just because we didn't get the full process done. So So there's some of that too, probably.
So this is another, I had someone call, do you know where, Landy's, canoe entrance is, Landy's, the curvy roads?
I think so, yep.
Yeah, I think there's some beaver damage going on and kind of undercutting the road maybe or something there.
Well, if it's the place I'm thinking about, it's kind of from Dolly Park and south a mile or so.
Yeah, I'm kind of in there.
We had 10 beavers trapped out of there here this spring, and we had to take a dam out a couple times at the beginning of the pipe. We got some issues there that we had to fix, and we'll probably have to do a better fix at some point when the water goes down. So if it's the same spot I'm thinking of, we're aware of it, and
Yeah,
we
well,
got
it's-
at least the beaver population under control, and hopefully we'll get enough, get the
Do you
flow
think
down.
he's thinking of the right place? You know where Landy's is, the curvy road.
It's like 2 miles north of 69.
Yeah, north of 69 from Colby's. The curve.
Just a slight curve there where the river gets close.
Really
On
close.
180th or.
Yeah, that's where you're talking about? Okay, that's a different spot, but I am aware that the river's kind of cutting up to the road there.
Some of the old timers that know that road say the only thing that's gonna fix it is the big rocks and big rubble.
That is what our plan is, at
Rip wrap
least.
of some sort or something.
Talked to Ethan about it last week. He said that's what they're gonna try and do when the water goes down. Just start dumping rock, and hopefully you get a bottom.
Sure.
Reach down there with the excavator and see if you can find some decent bottom, and if not, we could maybe go to like a sheet pile type protection, but then your dollars go whoosh, whoosh, up fast.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think it's dangerous right now.
yeah, okay. We can get some flags up there, I guess, if there isn't.
I would say flags for sure, and then that, the Rice Lake one, issue out there with, I see that Ostranders have flagged everything and I think
Okay.
they're gonna be starting
I
soon.
haven't heard the latest on who they chose or how they want to do it. Okay, and
I think they're kind of staying away from under the road. I mean, it looks like everything's gonna be dug up in the yards but I mean, we have neighbors that are, have hoses from other people's houses and stuff. We had some issues.
might have got a little lucky with temperatures and stuff.
Yeah.
Could have been frozen and out of water.
I think because it was running, it probably didn't freeze.
That, could be.
I don't
Maybe
know.
everybody left their water dripping or something like that
Well, it
too.
was raining across the golf course parking lot,
Yeah.
So,
Okay, we'll touch base if Ethan hasn't already.
yeah, and I'm quite sure Ostrander got the bid, so he'd be the one to talk to if you're wondering where it's going.
Anything else on the roads?
Did you get a chance to get out and flag what I sent you pictures of?
I left it, I was gone yesterday. I had something come up, but I left it with Ethan on Friday to get flags in there first thing on Monday, so.
'Cause that's, I should have stepped out there a little bit, but it made me nervous even to step up to it because it's eaten out right up to the gravel's that far away from where it drops. It's a 90-degree drop off to the bottom. It's not even tapered. I mean, it goes straight down and then into the creek. And if a guy was to, you can't see it if you're going north or, if you're going up and down that road, north or south. If you're going south and you meet a vehicle there and you've got over, your tire would be that close to a 90-degree drop
Yeah.
off into a dredge ditch, so.
My guess would be that Winter took out the flags because there were flags there last fall.
There are two little flags up a little further, but they're not even by one of the washouts.
Little ones, yeah, we would have like a rebar or a lath with a 1 by 1 foot
It's,
flag on it.
I would hate to see some poor unsuspecting, I know better now, but someone else going down that road with a loaded semi might be in for a rude awakening if they had to get over to meet a car.
Yeah, I don't know why they ever built those close to the road like they did in some cases. They're
Dredge ditch
terrible.
like that.
Yeah,
And The one spot is, like I say, was wider, but the other one was a narrower spot. It's about this far, but that one's just right up to the edge of the gravel, so.
All right, I'll check on that, and if it's not flagged, we'll get it done.
Yeah, it's-
Today.
It's scary for a truck driver.
Yeah. Yeah, we'd move more of those if they weren't so deep, you know, and so expensive to move. Like I said, that one here just north of town, we're gonna move, but that's just a little creek, so
Yeah, well.
economical to
and
do so.
This one here unfortunately has steep sides and there's sloughs all along. That it's a fairly deep spot.
Yeah.
It's just a bad.
Yeah.
It's too bad it's not, that edge isn't out of
Is
the
this a
fence line.
drainage ditch then, or?
It's a drainage ditch in the road ditch. And it's, had some pretty good slough offs and the material is completely gone. Well, I mean, it's down in the creek somewhat, you can see it, but it's eaten out right up to the edge of the road and it just drops off. You got about this much of grass and then it drops straight off at a 90-degree.
Is this one of the-
Mill Road?
No, it's on, 50th, south of Highway 9. It was by
is this
410th, I
something-
think.
No, this is, one of our drainage districts.
Yes.
Okay, is that something we should be looking at, possibly moving it over?
Well, yeah, that would
That's
be
what
it.
We looked at that up at.
I mean,
Alex.
it's probably 15 or 17 feet deep and for about a quarter mile, so,
Kinda like Rembrandt then.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
just like that. Just like
And-
that.
And just like what you were talking about in the one up there, this one here, about the only way you could stop it is if you were dumping rock in there. Because if you were to dump dirt in there, it would just wash out again, and in the next
Yeah.
big rain we had, it's,
Yeah, they're not good. I mean, there's probably, I don't know, 5-10 miles of that throughout the county where it kind of snakes to the road and back or whatever, and they're all bad. You know, they all take, you gotta keep an eye on them. And they're all steep.
yeah, no, it's just not a good design.
Any other road questions?
Susan, the driveway you mentioned about the kind of scar across it, that's the one to your farm place there, or
Oh, right to our home place. Yep.
the
440.
west driveway?
Um,
You got two driveways
Yes,
there?
there's two driveways. It's the west one. It's a big extra swipe in there.
Well, I don't have a good answer, so we'll talk to Ethan and see.
Well, it's just that there was not a mud puddle there before, and now there is. You know, right at the end of the driveway, so I just didn't know if that was just by the mailbox kinda. It's just kinda nice to actually have his ear sitting right here on a personal thing.
Kind of nice if I know that we have things already written down when you mention them too, but not always the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else on roads? Hearing none, consider for approval resolution to purchase equipment for the secondary road department.
Sent this out to you by email, but duplicate copies of the resolution on top there, that'll take your signature. And the rest of the packet is the original quote and the purchase agreement, which I will take care of if we approve it today. Talked about this a couple times through budget and everything, and it all lined up how we hoped. We got a good trade price out of the other cat truck. We got a very similar price for this grader as the last one, so it's really almost identical transaction as the last one.
Are all our graders going to all-wheel drive, or?
Yes.
I assume that must be a hydraulic all-wheel drive then, if the front tires are driving.
That's what I understand, yeah.
Yeah, it's gotta be hydraulic. I don't know how you get a drive shaft all the way up past that blade stuff.
Yeah, I know they're hydraulic because we got an issue with one of them, one of the first ones all-wheel drive ones we got.
Okay.
The one that came from Duluth?
Oh, I think it was the new one we bought before those two.
Oh, okay.
So the one you traded was a 2015?
Truck.
Truck,
Truck,
yeah.
Well, that's the, you know,
It's the cat truck. If you remember, we talked about that. We got a
Yeah.
couple of cat trucks that year and thought that was gonna be the sweet new deal, and
Yep.
turned out they had some issues and then stopped making them. So, guess, we all realized that that decision could have gone another way.
Yeah, that's,
But to get, you know, those chassis and box was probably, you know, 130,000 or something like that. To get 60,000 after it's got this many miles on it, I think is fair, and I think CAT is stepping up on it for us.
well, they don't wanna lose motor grader business over cat trucks, I would assume, so.
Yeah,
Were they the dealer for the cat trucks then?
yeah. We went and talked to kind of a specific truck salesman down in Des Moines and looked at some stuff at the time, but ultimately, yeah, it's through Ziegler. At least that's my recollection.
Well, I'll make the motion to approve the resolution to purchase equipment for the secondary road department.
I'll second that.
Got a motion from Jensvold and a second from Smith to approve the resolution to purchase equipment for the secondary road department. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. All right, thanks, Scott.
Scott, when we have issues like bringing up that, Landy Road and stuff like that, should I just text Ethan? I mean, is that the best way to handle that?
I think you've done that before a little bit and it's worked out. I think
Okay.
that's fine for something that's, you know, strictly maintenance, something that needs some attention quickly, that sort of thing, yeah. I mean, me too's fine, it's just now,
Yeah, well, I know you're
if I
you're
haven't
trying
seen it,
to
and then
shift some responsibilities and that kind of stuff, so I didn't know.
yeah, I mean, you know, if everybody called Ethan directly, it would be maybe a little more overwhelming, but you, I'm sure is fine. And
Suppose it wouldn't hurt to do a group text between him and Ethan too, so they both get it.
And that's true.
that's fine too, yep, so we all know about it. I mean, we'll talk about it eventually, but sometimes by the time they make it back to me, he's already got them staked and a plan for it, you know? And really, that's better than me
Yeah.
waiting till I see him later today or calling him after here and then trying to repeat something somebody else said that I haven't seen. There's more chances for errors probably.
Right.
And if, you know, he's got an uncomfortable about it or whatever, he'll just call me and say, hey, is this what we should do? Or, you know, what's our policy on this, whatever.
All right. Auditor's office will discuss drainage matters. See if she's sitting.
I don't really have anything.
I'll just
I sent letters out to DD6 Lot 1, so the landowners would know that that's coming, but then they have no charge. John Offerdall came in and he looked at the agreement, so he's all good with it. So when we have that on the 27th, we'll be ready to go. I'm getting a better estimate on 11 main tile. You know, the classification was at 2.675 million. I tried to balance out what we have left to pay and what I have outstanding. Looks like we could have maybe a total of 1.7, maybe 1.75 million total. So that's awesome that it would be much less.
Especially with all the delays.
Yeah, so it came in $500,000 lower than the project cost estimate, so we saved money right there. We haven't had to use any contingencies, and he had 10% of the project, so there's 175 there, but we have to add in the mitigation, so that's a wash, so that's good. So I feel like we're doing okay with the project. So that's all I know.
But will they be mitigation for this levy time cost?
Yes, I would guess that it will be done before June 30.
Okay.
Because anything I have outstanding by June 30 will get billed in September.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
Because I didn't know what the delay, you have a year to determine all that and stuff, so.
I don't know,
Mitigation.
I don't know the process, I guess, so I guess I was just thinking that it would be done soon. We would have to finish the project, hopefully before a year from now, that's a whole nother year of interest. So,
I did let Roger Muckelson know about the crop damage, so.
yeah, and I have not added anything in for crop damage, I just kind of went high because I don't know
It's
what
probably a
that'll be.
pretty minor part of the project.
Correct, I just don't know, so it's hard to estimate, I don't know. And then if we get into this crop year.
He did ask me how is he supposed to submit it, on actuals, and then we determine with the engineer what it would be, or?
Right, he determines the acres that he lost.
Okay.
I find out if it's corn or beans, I call the co-op, find out what prices are that day, and
What
that's,
about the yield?
no.
Or who determines yield?
That would
I
be
guess they
the,
would go off the average,
that would,
yeah, the,
For that parcel?
I'm sure, that would be the engineer, because he gives me the final total
Okay.
on what to do.
That's what he was asking, so.
Yeah,
you
and that's
submit what
after the
you want,
project is
But then
over.
they'll do what they want.
That is after the project is over,
Yeah, that's what I told him.
because I don't want to pay any now, and then if it gets into another
I
crop, you're
told
gonna
him
have
he
to do
could
it again.
submit it anytime, but the payment will be later.
Right, like I said, if we end up having more crop damage this spring or something, then, you know, people get anything planted, and we have to go back in for something.
Well,
So,
the reason it's so important is that it changes your yields, your proven yields at the FSA office. You know, when you have less yields because the crop is gone, you know, so you may have to go back in and reprove your yields for that year. You know, so, because they base everything off of your yields
Okay.
in FSA, so it's kind of an important thing, you know, as
Right,
far as knowing exact acres damaged and that sort of thing, so.
right, and they would get the engineer, or, I mean, if they gave it to me, then I would get it to the engineer. Between Rick Hopper and I, we get it a total, bringing it to you guys.
Sure.
anything else for drainage? Nope. Consider for approval, resolution to add DD5, lat 43 ditch to district. This is the one we've been discussing previously.
Yeah, it's a
Just the
private
formalization
ditch
of
that
it.
we are now making a lateral of the district. And once this is approved, I will be sending letters out to these landowners, letting them know that it's not part of the district.
Remember, is this my district or?
Where is that at?
It's 5 lot 43, it's in Mount Valley.
yeah, I was gonna say, this is one of Mount Valley,
Oh,
right?
Mount Valley, then that's
Yeah.
not mine.
I don't recall,
I was
it's right
thinking it
in
was,
here,
it's right close to the
See on here?
line. I think
so,
it's a very,
Federal number 19.
very northeast of Mount Valley or not?
no, it's right over here,
Okay.
because it's on Heimendinger's land over here, so.
Yeah, there's a nice picture of it here.
Oh, you got the picture?
I like it.
I like pictures too.
And in color.
I like color.
Yeah, it's
pictures.
even, yeah, no, it's color, it's a fancy one.
And whenever it was dug, they must have just went by fence line, because it's pretty straight.
Mhm.
And I do have a classification for it, so, I mean, I'm good that way.
Is there any reason not to accept it in?
No, and you guys have already done that. This is just,
Paperwork.
Oh, okay.
yeah, yes,
So, see, I thought we'd approved it.
yeah,
already.
you did,
Yeah.
yeah. But we had to have it, you know, we had to have an engineer come in and look at it and
Yeah.
get the legals. It did change the classification for lat 19 because some of that water that they had going to that tile goes to the ditch, so lat 19 changed. That's easy to do in the system.
Who are the trustees of this?
You guys?
That's us then, now,
Mm-hmm.
or will be
Yes,
now.
yes.
Okay. Interesting. You see that in?
I'm looking for 19.
You see about this, I can tell you.
Was it on our map, if it was private before?
But
No,
it
lat
changed-
19 is.
It changed lat 19.
Yeah, all right, yeah.
So 185, it was 368.
So when someone requests that the county take over a portion of private, what's the process on that? Just
That's what, weren't you involved in
I
that?
was, but
Yeah.
I mean, just, they call you and they say,
They request it from the trustees, which is the supervisors.
yep,
And the supervisors listen to why they want it brought in and determine if, yes, it should be or no, it shouldn't.
yeah.
So then we have an
And then you
engineer.
send out to everyone in the district
Uh,
that there's going to be a addition, right?
after I'm done, I will be.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't do anything beforehand. It's because it's your decision.
Mhm.
Then there's no cost yet. The cost.
No, the only cost is to do this is
Yeah.
whatever
The-
he charged.
It just, in the future, if there's a cost with repair to that ditch, then the drainage is responsible for it.
This district will be responsible for the engineering bill.
For
on
the
this.
engineering bill.
Yeah,
And
we
what's
have
the
to have what that
engineering
part,
bill
yeah.
on it?
But
I don't have a
You
total.
don't have that yet either.
I did have a bill of, I think, $1,900 that I just
There's-
paid, but, so there might be one more.
there's no cost for the property itself, in a sense.
We don't buy it or do anything
Yeah.
with that, no.
All right, I guess we're ready for a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the resolution to add DD5 lat 43 ditch to the district.
I'll second the motion. On a motion from Smith and a second from Derby to approve the resolution to add DD5 lat 43 ditch to the district. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
You just need 3 signatures on that then, right?
Whatever's on that sheet, yes, please.
Consider for approval the sheriff's quarterly report. Getting to the point where we're almost gonna have to have updated drainage
You know,
maps
I
every
was
year.
just gonna ask that, how often does that,
'Cause there's
get
always
changed.
adjustments,
or,
especially after DD 11 and now this. And
There is a process. I mean, Sue is aware and making.
yeah, she keeps up with it. But for us to have a map, we're gonna have to have it updated.
Yeah, we gotta make sure that she knows that it needs to be updated, I guess. Does that happen?
Yeah, we take care of that.
You take care of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need stamp bill.
Ooh,
Before you
excuse
send
me.
it on.
Yeah.
You're really slacking today.
Oh, I tell you, it's terrible. Me and Spicoli, we're both slackers.
Spicoli?
You've never seen Pastimes at Ridgemont High?
Nope.
Oh my.
You'll have to watch it.
You guys watch way too much TV.
Oh, this was
Oh, this is a movie back in
This is a
the
movie.
eighties at best.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think I saw it, I don't know, 10 times.
I wouldn't remember a movie I watched in the 1980s
I-
anyway.
Was it Sean Penn that was in it?
Yes, yeah, he's Spicoli, yeah. And the teacher, I hate to, I probably had some stuff in common with Spicoli.
I'll make a motion to approve the sheriff's quarterly report.
I'll second it.
On a motion from Derby and a second from Kinsvold to approve the sheriff's quarterly report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
This was interesting.
So if we're gonna make a decision today, we also are gonna have to probably make the decision of what we would possibly work with the employees on any possible matches towards their.
Well, that's what
HSA.
this paper is,
Yeah.
is if you, I don't know that we wanna do a match, but you can decide if you wanna put how much or whatever you wanna put towards it.
If you have all those different options, it's a little more complicated.
No, you need to pick, you as the supervisors need to pick, so no matter what, we'll have the traditional, and then
Yeah.
you need to pick whether you wanna do 1, 2, or 3 to offer to the employees.
All right. Which even adding that makes the process somewhat more complicated as far as, but there's still only 2 choices. Because we're only gonna approve one of these.
Right. So the top one is the county puts nothing in, just pays like a regular. The second option is where the employee, or basically the employee just pays the difference in the premiums that would equal what you pay at the top. So anywhere there's yellow, it just is showing that the county would pay equal. And then the third option is where you would make the employee pay the 20% of the original premium, just like every other plan, but then the county would pay towards savings for a total for the county paying, like I said, the exact same as the traditional plan.
Or if we chose, we could approve none of them, right?
Yeah, if you don't want to do the health savings at all, but I think you'd have some disappointed employees.
I think people are excited about the health savings account. I mean, it's not gonna work for everyone.
No, but there are employees that are very interested in doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I don't know what the benefits of these three or the reason we would choose one over the other.
I guess I'm looking at, in just third category there, it's called 2, option 2. The county would pay for just the employee, but not any of the spouse, child, or family towards their savings.
So I'm only familiar with health savings accounts for a single person. So the advantage being able to have your spouse or your child or your family for the employee is what?
Kind of tell you how it would apply to me.
Yeah.
So option 2 we're talking about, for a family. Right now I have 400 and some deducted off my paycheck every month for health insurance. Under this plan, I'd have $6. So now I'd have about $400 and change to decide, do I want to put that into my health savings account or do I want to keep it as part of my paycheck? And right now I think it's probably smart to put it in the HSA, but let's say a year or 2 later, I've had very little medical bills and my bank has been built up to 6,000 or 7,000, so more than my max out of pocket, I might back off my contributions. And so then I have more going into my pocket as payment instead of into
You
the
can
HSA.
keep it or you can save it.
Right, keep it or save it. And so that gives some nice flexibility to the person who is able to keep their medical bills low.
Healthy, it rewards healthy people. It can reward
Yeah,
them
and
somewhat.
I'm not exactly sure it'll work for my family.
I mean, you just have to weigh the numbers. I mean, if $400 times 12 months is 4,800, let's say did I do that right? 400 times 12?
That'd be a little more than
400 times 12, 4,800.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you are able to keep your medical costs under that, if you basically didn't have any surgeries or major things and just had doctor's visits and routine stuff,
You could easily bank it up.
you could easily bank it up. Yep, so even if you are somebody who goes to the doctor a lot or has regular things, as long as you're under your contributions, you'll slowly start to grow that account.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the
The one thing
HSA.
I didn't ask Brittany was, we had this situation where if we're on flex, you can't do it till the first of the year, switch over to HSA.
Right.
What if my wife has flex also? Can I do this separate from her flex? She's in Minnesota.
I don't think you can.
I think
It's
the
a federal
IRS
thing.
is the IRS and you wouldn't want them,
Does she have to drop her flex?
I would assume so.
She's got her own policy.
I don't,
And you only have
You
your
would
own
need to-
policy?
Well, for
With your-
insurance, I have Ty and me, and
just
she
the
has
two,
her.
She has her
you
own
would need
policy.
to call Brittany.
Yeah.
She has her own policy, but you would still be able to use her FSA money.
Well, so I was wondering if I just use her flex till my HSA
Yeah, I don't
kicked
think I'd
in.
want to go there.
Yeah.
Well, you have to find out what's legal.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where, we need to have meetings and have Brittany talk to
Because
each employee and
our
see what works
flex
for you.
is on a calendar year.
Right.
Hers is 1st of September is her for the school.
That's why it's gonna be an individual,
Yes.
each person is gonna have a individual requirements and questions. But that was helpful, Scott, to.
So the highlighted area is what the county's gonna contribute to your insurance and HSA.
Yeah, so, right now, the county pays the $742.34 for an employee, and then $1633.16 for a spouse, and on down the line. And so in option 2 and 3, the county would still pay that amount, it's just where the county would put it. So on option 3, then the county would pay, whatever that amount is, the 80%, and then would put the rest of that money that was left into the HSA. Whereas in option 2, the county doesn't put any money into the HSA account except for the employee plan. So it's kind of how the county wants to put the money, if they want to just pay the premium, or if they want to pay a portion of the premium and put the rest into the employee's HSA.
Okay, I'm still trying to grasp between 2 and 3 where the county's putting it.
So on option 2, the county's just putting the money, paying the premium.
Okay.
They're paying basically 100% of the premium, minus
I see.
like $5 for a spouse or $3 for a child.
All right.
Whereas in option 3, the county's paying the 80% like they do in the traditional plan, and then putting whatever's left into the HSA.
So that column there is all about premium.
Yes.
Okay. And so like on option 3, when it says employee pays, that means they're
They're 20% of the premium, like the traditional plan.
okay. And then they can also take it up to that amount out of their savings,
The employee would also
Understand.
be able to contribute whatever amount they wanted to,
and that'd be through
Their
their
HSA.
paycheck probably.
yes. In
That-
either plan, the employee can pay towards their HSA
Right.
and whatever they want to do.
But this shows what the county is contributing.
Right, that's what we're concerned with.
Which gives the employees more flexibility to manage it themselves.
Option 2 would,
That's what I was thinking as well.
yeah.
It covers the upfront costs of the insurance policy. It frees up their monies out of their paycheck to do whatever they want with the
Yeah, and they could
HSA.
literally decide if they want 0 all the way up to their yearly max to come out.
The problem with that, though, is that you've got the people in the traditional plan that are still paying the 20%. And if you make the employee pay nothing, they don't have to put that money into their HSA, and then they're getting a pretty good deal because the county's paying their entire premium for them. Whereas the traditional people, you're still making the employee pay 20%.
That's an education piece that'll be important, because if you don't put any money in your HSA, you'll probably get burned,
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's,
But overall, it's still gonna be a savings to the county, right?
It'll be the same to the county, no
Same
matter
to the
what.
same.
Same as
Yeah, I feel
premiums.
like the employees
It just gives the employee
can,
flexibility.
will have that
And
flexibility.
if you have good luck, you'll fare well. So young, healthy people, it's less risk, and even people that are less healthy, it's still maybe, you'd have to do pretty bad in order to.
So if we did option 2 and they decided not to put hardly anything into their HSA, they're just gonna pay taxes on that money then.
Yeah, you get a $2,000 medical bill, and now you're paying.
So if they don't,
Post-tax
it would
money's-
benefit them to use that, to put it all in their
At least to
HSA.
build some in there.
Yeah, unless you think I'm gonna go to the doctor once, and it's gonna be $100, and so that's all I wanna put in there.
Or just make sure you build enough for everybody's deductible.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of years where people don't use their deductible, they don't even
Oh,
think about that,
happens
they
to me
use
every year
$200,
for
$300, and
40
that's the whole
years.
year.
You mean you don't use all 3 deductibles every year?
I never ever touch mine for
That's me.
40 years, I haven't.
And none of it's for me.
No, I'm sure.
really variable from one person to the next.
It is, it certainly is.
Like I said, absent surgeries and, you know, kids being born, big things.
Mhm.
You know, medical bills don't rise near as fast.
Well, I'm leaning towards option 2, just personally, because I think that people can understand it and figure it out, and
Probably take more education to
It's gonna
make
take
sure
more
they understand what the ramifications are if they don't.
but that's kind of Brittany's job, though.
But the
Right.
bad part is if you get someone that doesn't discipline themselves, they could get themselves in trouble.
I wanna make a truck payment with this or something.
Yeah, well, no, yeah, I said, now I can buy a new vehicle, can I make my payment out of this?
Everybody who isn't saving properly is taking risks, and this is no different. You know,
It's life.
you know.
It's all about making good decisions.
Well, I guess I'm probably more in favor of option two also.
Yeah, that would, if you're gonna have one of the choices, it just as well be that one.
I mean, it's not us that are going to have to be doing the educating, it's
Yeah.
gonna be Brittany, right? She'll come in and do some.
I can
seminars
just,
or-
I don't know, I'm in favor of option 3 just because I can see it all going wrong.
Well, yeah, if someone doesn't discipline themselves properly, this could be
But then they don't
problematic.
have to choose a health savings account.
But if they do it and then
They
don't
can just-
discipline themselves, it's,
They have to
Because
be
they're
an
gonna-
adult.
yes, no, you've gotta look at down the road that things can come. Just because you got a pile of money now doesn't mean it ain't gonna get spent later on something you have to spend it on, so. Sounds like my life story,
Gonna write a book,
yeah,
but who would read it?
not even me.
Personal library.
It's a family joke, sorry.
Well, I always say that if I was to write a book about myself, it would be a short story. Or if you try to read my mind, it'd be a short story.
Well, I guess I would make a motion to approve the traditional insurance renewal along with option 2 for a health savings plan offering.
I'll second it.
Got a motion from Derby and a second from Jensvold to approve the traditional insurance renewal along with a HSA plan of option 2. Any further discussion?
The only problem that I see yet is that on Brittany's sheet, it says that if the county doesn't contribute something to the health savings plan, the amounts could change.
But we are on the employee.
You're not putting,
We're not putting it in the health,
In
we'll let
for
the
the rest of
employee
them.
put it in the health
So
savings
why did we
plan.
put it on this way then?
I mean, for the employee you are, but not for any of the other.
So it'll increase
Oh,
the
the
cost
spouse.
of.
I don't know.
policy.
I'm just saying that on her sheet,
That's an
it
important
said that
thing.
that's an option.
Yeah,
I think more details to be found out would be good.
Mhm.
yeah,
Ask her, tell her,
Can we call her right now?
She's
Yeah.
gone this week.
we could tell her which way we're leaning and ask her if there's other concerns and.
Do you want me to put it on the agenda for next
I
week and
think
see if she
we
can
should.
Is there
call
like
in?
a sort of plan document or something that they can draft around what we've
Decided?
decided, and then you have, you know, all the fine details all laid out, no better?
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we have a motion on the floor, but without better information, I guess I'll withdraw my motion.
I'll withdraw my second then, I guess, I suppose.
And we didn't vote on it,
No.
so.
But we have indicated what we would like to go with, so you have directive to what to give to her and what we need to find out.
Yeah, because that is an important question you raised there, is if it's gonna add to the premiums by going that route.
Why did it add to the premium?
She did say she wasn't sure if it would or wouldn't, but it
There
did
was
say it
a
on that original
possibility,
sheet, so I don't,
Therefore, we need clarification whether it would or wouldn't.
Yeah.
And, cause that's a,
And is that why you even did the option 3? Because of that?
no, these options were all listed by her, right?
this is my
This
spreadsheet.
is her spreadsheet.
No,
And I did that because honestly, I can just hear somebody coming back going, it's not fair that those people don't get to have to pay anything. You know, I get that a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
but
sure
it-
there's a lot of guys that would say that.
Because it does take more effort and more work to have an HSA. You know, it's more work.
Well, flex isn't
Like-
easy either.
And it's offered everyone.
But if
Yeah,
it's
no,
clear-
I'd much rather everybody that wants to complain
Oh,
about it
yeah,
has a
if you
chance,
compare
so.
flex and
But,
HSA,
You know,
HSA's
even when you
got a
have
hands
that,
out.
there are people who still, it's just not fair because it didn't work out the way they wanted it to, even though they knew the consequences ahead of time.
All right,
Well, we need more information, I guess.
so we'll table that till next week. We'll get more information.
Everyone will love HSA.
I'm excited about it.
Especially at my age, I'm gonna start hopefully banking some to go towards supplements.
Absolutely. And you can use it for all sorts. You can actually buy a spa, a hot tub.
I have one.
I know, but you
But I
can buy
never use
another
it.
one. Oh,
So he'll sell it to you.
I have one.
I've got a
But you
deal
can
for
use your
you.
HSA money for all sorts
But
of.
in order to get it out, I either have to cut the hot tub into pieces or tear the wall out of my front porch.
That's the easier part.
Yeah,
That would, yeah, that's what they did to put it in when they remodeled the house. They opened up the wall and stuck it in the front porch.
Like the
And you don't
walk-in
use
cooler
it?
I took out, I just took the wall out.
Skin gets all dry and itchy. And, well, and then it's got a leak. And the way they recessed it in the floor of the front porch, I can't figure out how to get there to fix the leak without.
Sounds like a sales pitch.
yeah.
Moving on. Number
All right, we
15.
digress. Is that what you're trying to say?
Consider for approval auditor's transfers.
When does this have to be decided?
Well, I'd say here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
What we talked about last week. But we put it on for this week just to start the discussion.
Mhm. You're getting good at that.
Yeah,
It's an aerodynamic thing.
years ago, I probably would have made them into paper airplanes and sailed them over to.
So the Winnebago County Fair got, some stimulus money or whatever it's called, too, right?
I would think they would have qualified for it. It seems like I've heard rumor that they did, but I have not heard.
Fun to know what that was.
And what their actual costs were.
Yeah.
Mhm. What plans they have for it. Do they, where do you see their agenda and minutes? Do they,
Winnebago County Fair.
yeah,
Yeah. The only extracurricular stuff I get as far as the county goes is conservation. I've never seen an agenda or anything for their meetings.
They have their own website.
maybe it's on there.
They're not, even though they're called Winnebago County Fair, they're not part of the county.
No, yeah, I know. But it's in the county. I have other boards that I'm on that I get minutes and stuff for, agendas, but
motion to approve auditor's transfers.
I'll second it.
Got a motion from Smith and a second from Jensvold to approve the auditor's transfers. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Consider for approval payroll claims.
So when is the discussion over
That's
that?
next, but
Oh, it is.
we could probably be talking about it while
While we're stamping this,
yeah. Reviewing and stamping. So probably one of the first things I'd like to discuss is you got three options. One is just a municipal advisor. The other two can be either a municipal advisor or an underwriter.
Technically, according to the law, they're not supposed to be working as a municipal advisor. If they're selling our bonds, they can't technically give us advice. Whereas Maggie in Spear Financial can give us advice, can help us out, do things, like work for us.
because she doesn't represent both ends.
Right. The other thing is that Northland Securities was willing to, let me just pull up this email. It looks like the firm the county had worked with previously was charging anywhere between $12.50 to $20.10 per bond. So it's kind of funny that they were charging $20 per bond, and now that I brought in some competition, now they'll go down to $8 a bond. I'm a little frustrated with that.
Well, I guess the one thing I look at is they've also done a lot of work for us over the years at no charge. They helped us in our lobbying efforts down at the State House when we got rid of the rollback for the wind turbines. Yeah, they were down there with us, Heidi and Jeff both. And it was basically Worth and Winnebago County that went down and lobbied to the Department of Revenue Administrative Hearing and got it done. And for all of the state. And so they've been a great partner in all this and didn't charge us for anything like that. And, there's been many times where we've had issues come up here and there and they don't charge for any of that. I don't know if any of the others do or not, but there's some value in that.
Maggie will call me, we don't work with Maggie, and Maggie will call me and say, hey, now's a good time to refund if you're thinking about it. Now's a good time to do this. If I have a question about something, I can call Maggie and she will help me with it. And we've never paid anything to Spear Financial, and she's helped me with many things. So it works both ways there.
Well, the fact that all of a sudden they came down, Northland Security, you're right, they've done a lot of things that have helped us out. It seemed above and beyond the call of duty, but they were also getting quite a bit more.
They've got compensated quite well for what they've done.
They were charging that much more per bond, but
So they're all proposing $8 now.
yes.
A bond, and it has been up to 20 before with Northland.
How long ago?
And some of that's kind of,
It says they've been charged us anywhere from $12.50 to $20.10. I don't know the dates on those.
yeah, and it's kind of variable with the market too.
Things like that have been traditionally coming down over history, as you see advertisements on TV for it and stuff like that. I mean, they keep coming down with that, so that is a trend.
Yeah.
Industry-wide.
So, see, you got certain costs involved, and if you look at these numbers, sometimes the numbers involved just kind of go like this. And so the overall end effect ends up being about the same.
Here's the other option. I could go out and just see if the bank, I have talked to the local banks, and they would be interested in doing loans for us to replace these bonds. And so we could do it ourselves and use Bob Justin as our legal counsel. I talked to Bob also, and Bob said that we could do it on our own as well.
You know, nothing
And that would say all of those fees.
nothing personal against all these people who presented today, but if I can have a chance to bolster our own banks,
Well, if
I would almost rather see you pay a little more and keep the business local than you know, as long as they can be competitive, I would much rather keep it local, and then, like you say, you eliminate fees.
Well, and they all said that they would end up brokering it out or putting it out to the
Two of them said that.
banks.
Northland didn't say that, did they?
Yeah.
I think they all three said that they
Yeah,
would
did all three say that?
talk to
I
local
thought I only
banks.
heard it twice, but that doesn't mean much.
They're all in the same business.
Hi.
Yeah,
You snuck in on me.
yeah. She's kind of scary, isn't she?
Well, I guess it wouldn't hurt, I don't wanna spend a lot of time dragging it out, though. If we can find out in the next week what the banks would offer.
Well, I'd have to put it in the paper and send a letter to the 3 banks and credit union in the county, so it could be a couple of weeks, but it'd be a couple of weeks with them too, so.
And then are we committed to that proposal?
Let's say it comes in way over what we thought, we wouldn't have to accept any bids, just like when we did the roof. If you don't like it, you don't have to accept it.
And
Yeah, I mean-
you could get a management advert, what'd they call it? They had an actual word,
Municipal advisor.
yeah, an advisor, and
When we,
for $1 a bond, made it sound like, didn't it?
I don't know about $1 a bond,
Well, they said it was 8, and to have an additional one, it was 9 or something. Maybe I heard it wrong. So I just gathered it was $1.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. But I'd like to, if our local banks are interested, I'd certainly like to.
they were
See what
not
they-
interested when we first did this with.
I
we
talked
offered it
to
them then?
TSB and NBT, and both of them said that they could
No,
be interested,
But they
yes.
weren't in the past.
I don't-
When we first started the jail, didn't we talk about that? It seems like I can remember.
I don't know that answer. I don't remember.
You can talk to, if we're doing that, you can talk to them too, that if there's a value to bond insurance, if they would be a better bid on insurance walls.
Yeah, make sure they know that's options available, I guess, which I would
But
assume.
I gotta weigh, is it worth the $8,500 or whatever it is?
The odds are, like you said, nobody's ever in the state of Iowa's never ever used it.
But if it gives you a better rate, then it might be worth it.
But
Well,
if you're working with local banks that know us,
yeah,
maybe it won't matter.
yeah.
Right.
We don't currently have.
MBT has specifically spoken to me about some of these things, and I know that they're receptive certainly to,
Mhm.
so.
If we go that route, we're not actually taking action at this point, or
Um,
Well, at this point, we need more information before we can take action, so.
well, other than, so you think they're all interested in,
I have talked to MBT and TSB. And there was interest in both places.
I mean,
So then it would just be farmers and credit union. I would sort of expect that the credit union is not gonna be interested, but how would you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I can sure send them a letter.
because you have to have the availability of funds to do this. We're pretty small. And TSB right now is trying to transition to NSB.
When I talked to them though, they still said they were interested.
Okay. And, down in Clear Lake, MBT was competitive in their bonds.
yeah, why did I that somewhere.
It was like 0.3%.
Yeah.
One of them.
Where
And
did-
0.5% on another.
I'm trying to remember where I saw that, whether it was on TV or in the
It's
paper.
been on TV and in the paper.
Maybe I'm.
One was for their health center or whatever with the city, the
Yeah.
school of the city.
Yep.
And the other one was the, where the hotel's going up,
Yeah.
Oh,
the infrastructure, they tipped for that.
I hadn't been there but for a while, man, that has really gone up, hasn't it? That new event.
Oh, on the northeast corner there?
Mm-hmm.
North, that's slow this winter, they couldn't get the materials and
Oh,
it would have been farther along. if they could-
you like the color? It's purple.
I
It's
like
just
the-
like, just the Tyvek or whatever that stuff is.
It's like a foam board that has a coating on it. Well, what's the wishes then? So you're thinking we need to commit that direction before we can start the process? And at this point, by doing that, we would eliminate the middle person. Whether it's,
Yes.
Does it make more work for you?
No matter what, refunding is a lot of work for me.
It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of savings. I mean,
So either way, it's, you still have to go through the process and still,
300 some thousand, your per hour would be pretty good. I guess.
so all
So
the,
you're gonna up my salary, is that what you're saying?
so all the
You
paperwork,
wanna- Well, I was thinking that 300,000 should go directly into the supervisor's salaries, but.
Oh, that's it, huh?
Yeah, all right. Terry,
so all the paperwork would, be done by Johnson?
Bob Justin.
If he thinks that would work out.
I spoke with him. Let me see. Close my email. Bob. I also talked to Bob about updating the urban renewal plan for the conservation building. Is that something you want to move forward with?
I mean, we've already updated it for the roof.
Yes.
Okay.
It didn't need to be updated for the roof because it was updated for the tuck pointing.
Oh, I see, because it's physically the same spot. But don't we have to identify the project?
What do you mean?
Well, I'm just thinking you have to identify what you're spending the money on. And,
Well, we'll still, I have to have public hearings for the roof yet,
yeah.
but that's separate from the urban renewal plan.
Well, I didn't know within the urban renewal plan if you have to identify what the money's being spent on. I think it has to be.
Yeah, but that's that's separate public hearings.
All right. Well, I thought we were going to borrow from ourselves for the nature center match and then pay it back with the TIF.
Yeah, but then you have to do an urban renewal update because that's not in the urban renewal plan.
Oh, okay. All right.
So,
Yeah, we probably should do that then.
okay, so I got off topic. But I asked Bob if I needed a company like Northland or if I could go out for bids myself. And his answer was, make inquiries with your banks to find out if they would be interested, which I did, and they are. And, he talked about those other companies would be interested. And, but he said, yes, if he helped me, I could handle it. So,
And we handle it ourselves, we save
Fifty-
$60,000
$60,000, yeah.
On top of, so that could go in, factor in against, even if they had a slightly higher interest rate, as long as it wasn't more than 50 or 60, they'd still be competitive, and the business would be low.
Might be 40,000.
I think it's 30.
Yeah, 40,000 is probably what you'd save, I'm guessing. Still got bond counsel fees. I don't know if his fees are gonna be higher because of
Yeah,
no middleman.
yeah. I
Bob's
guess-
usually about 15,000 for a job like this.
All right.
But that's if
so-
somebody else is facilitating it, right?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I don't care. If you guys want to go through
I'm just
one of
trying-
those companies, that's completely up to you. You just need to tell me what you want me to do.
Well, the thing that I like about offering it to our local banks is that there are local banks. And they might do the same thing, but who knows what bank it's
Well,
gonna be.
And they may not be competitive, we'll end up right back to where we are anyway, so we'll make our decision on which one of those we want to go with. And, but for now, I think we should go ahead with, doing it ourselves to see what the option looks like compared to then we compare it to the other three. If we can get, because, whether one of them would want to take it all, I'm guessing maybe not, but, between the three of them, then we got, then they might end up with three different bids. So then we have to look at all three of them put together and then average it out to see where it compares to any one of the other plans.
So when I write the letter, do you want me to give them options like of $1 million or the whole thing, or?
Well, it would simplify it if one of them took the whole thing.
But it seems like they sell them in groups, and
Yeah.
that way if they're limited what they want to bid on.
Well, if we did it with, like, if I went out and solicited the bids and stuff, then we would be doing it not as bonds, but as a loan.
Yeah.
And a loan for the entire amount.
This is general obligation, or not a bond.
No, it wouldn't be.
So a general obligation loan is paid through, a general obligation debt through the budget. It's paid the same way, it's just classified different because a bond is sold in groups of 5,000. I don't have the time, the energy,
Oh, no, yeah.
the knowledge to
Yeah.
do that. So if I do it, we go out for bids for a loan for the total amount. So that's where you need to decide whether doing one of these companies is what you want to do with the 5,000 bonds, or if you go out for a loan for that total amount.
And I suppose you're gonna want them to disclose what the fees would be involved for them too, besides the interest rate.
Well, yeah, we would want the total cost
Mhm.
of what the loan would be.
Usually the banks have traditionally not charged us a fee in the past, but we can,
We wanna disclose it ahead of time.
well, yeah, like I said, they haven't charged us fees, but if we could put it as part of the process.
Just wanna make sure we're looking apples for apples.
Yep.
Compare them. Somebody may come in and with a very low, very low interest rate, but have fees to put on top of that. So if you, make sure disclosure of fees. So that was your motion, Bill?
Yeah, I guess so.
I have no idea what that was, so you're
Well,
gonna
I'm
have to.
think about it too, so.
Okay,
I'll
So-
make,
So this discussion was to put it out for bid
to the
to the local banks. refinancing of our, refunding of our bonds with a loan, general obligation loan.
Refinancing our general obligation bonds with a general obligation loan. Whatever.
Right?
Well, I'll make the motion to, explore the, would you wanna put
I
that
think
in
we have to
there?
go forward with it.
Or just,
We,
Put-
with reserving the right to turn all of them down.
I'll make the motion to, go ahead with, paying off our general obligation bonds with the general obligation loans from the local banks with the option to refuse all bids or whatever,
Yes.
which is kind of,
In the best interest of the county.
yeah, I think so. Or did you want me to say within the best interest of the county on the end of it?
Because it's in the best interest.
Yeah,
of
because
the
that's in the
county.
best interest of this county to explore that, so, yeah, that's my motion, I guess.
I'll second that.
All right, so I've got a motion from Genfold and a second from Smith to move forward with the refunding of the Public Safety Center bonds with a general obligation loan with an offering to the local banks. And what was the other caveats? Oh, with the contingency that we have the ability to turn any and all offers down. In the best interest of the county.
In the end, latitude to make a decision on which option's gonna be best.
So in looking at this, we could come out really well, timing wise, and maybe take a little less time to do it this way. What timeline do you think this would be? You have to put it in the paper.
I'll put it in paper and letters out to the local banks. And then I'll give them a timeline,
Will there
Probably,
be a public hearing involved about this then?
not at this point, there will be
Just when
later.
we decide
When
to
we
do
make
it.
the decision, there'll be a public hearing.
Mhm.
So what kind of timeline till they would have them back to us then, do you think? 3 weeks?
Can get it in the paper next week. I would give them probably two weeks to turn that around and get to us for bid opening, and
So it would end up being May 4th. That push it out too far?
And they have to understand, it's eligible, I have to check with Jocelyn on this. It's eligible for refunding on June 1st.
we have 90 days ahead of time to do that, but we
Okay.
still have to make the June 1st payment.
Right.
Which we have that money in
It's already there.
the debt service fund.
And the new payments go on next year's budget.
Yes.
Okay, here's the other thing. What do we want to do for, do we want to just do the amortized payment at the lower rate? Or do we want to use the same payment schedule we've been doing and put more towards the principal?
I think we want to use the
I-
same,
Same
Amount.
payment schedule. That's by far, I mean, I was even thinking that before they were,
To accelerate the principal payments?
yes, that way you lower your interest even more.
Okay.
As long as we can afford it and so.
I think that with the election and the public safety center bonds, you can't have it be more than what, I mean, we have to keep the same payment. You can't be a bigger payment than what we had because we agreed to have a certain amount.
Yeah.
So we can up the principal because we're losing, because there'll be less interest, but we can't go any higher than what the current payment is.
Yeah, but stay with the current payment,
Yes,
yes.
yep.
Because that's what we were planning on making anyway, so
We haven't voted on this yet, right?
we have not.
Yeah.
You want to amend your motion to include that?
Yes,
Okay.
Basically just to stay with the current payment.
yeah, yeah.
And you're okay with this?
I'm fine with that.
All right. So we have an amendment that was made to the motion to add to it keep this payment the same to accelerate the principal payments. We'll vote on the amendment as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. So now we have the motion as amended. And, well, we all know what that is. It's documented. We added the part about the payments being the same as what they are now to accelerate the principal payments. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. All right. I guess, is that all the payroll then?
I'll make a motion to approve the payroll claims.
I'll second that.
I got a motion from Jensvold and a second from Smith to approve the payroll claims. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. We stand adjourned.